we go with the digestive system lecture. The first thing you'll need to know is the pathway of food through the digestive system. Here are the main organs right here, and then these are organs that are going to be contributing to it. So they're pretty obvious things, but you would be surprised how many people do not know the pathway of food through the digestive system. Here is a digestive system picture. This is one of the pictures you'll be drawing if you choose a drawing option for this unit. And here's the mouth. The mouth has four processes: mastication, mixing, swallowing, and taste. And of course, taste is combined with smell through the olfactory bulb to give you the full sensory experience. So while you're when you're sick, you probably will not have a very good sense of taste, because the only information you're getting is the information coming from the tongue and not from the nasal passages in the olfactory bulb. So the pharynx is immediately behind the mouth, and that is going to be the thing that's going to connect the mouth to the esophagus, and this is where peristalsis begins. And peristalsis is a wave-like contraction of two different muscle layers. So you have one muscle layer like this, and you have a separate muscle layer like this, and then they'll contract like this. And as they contract, then they're going to push the food from the top to the bottom. And that's not going to be squeezed all in one like this right here, but from top to down. And that's peristalsis. It's a wave-like contraction, and we'll show you a little bit more about that in a little bit. Here are the actual layers of the tissue found in the digestive system, and some places will have different makeups of this, like the stomach would have a little bit different, the small intestine would be, but the esophagus, the pharynx, they're mostly going to have these places here with these rings of these alternating structures or orientations for your muscle to move the food through by peristalsis. Here are the parts of the stomach. The cardiac is the sphincter that's going to be just below the diaphragm, and it's going to be very near the heart actually. And that's the reason why they got the cardiac sphincter. And the sphincter is just a ring-like muscle that contracts like this, and then when it relaxes, it opens up like this. If you have something like reflux, then the cardiac sphincter right here is the thing which is not working correctly. It's allowing the enzymes and the acid from the stomach to move up into the esophagus. On the other end is the pylorus, and it has its own sphincter, and it's the same idea. It's going to be releasing food into the small intestine in very small amounts. It'll open, it'll close, it'll open, it'll close. And then the stomach itself is primarily composed of these rugae, or these internal folds, and we'll talk about more about those in just a second. So you can see the rugae right here. There's the pyloric sphincter right there. There's the cardiac sphincter right there. And you can see an actual picture of those guys right here. And then the stomach layers actually have three different muscles. Three different muscle layers, and they're oriented like this, and then at a 45 like that. And as they contract, they're going to be mixing the stomach so that the fluid goes into, shakes it up, and we can get a little bit better mix of the food, breaks down a little bit more. So, three functions of the stomach. One of them is chyme. That's the enzyme. That's the acidic fluid that the food becomes when it goes into the stomach. And then, of course, this is where we break down proteins. And also alcohol and water are both absorbed through the stomach along with aspirin, strangely enough. Alright, your stomach has the mucus cells, and they're going to be lining everything, and they're going to make this sticky mucus that's going to stay on the surface of the cell, and that's going to protect it from getting digested by the gastric juice, which is made by the gastric pits. So you have the gastric glands, you have chief cells, and you have parietal cells, and then the glands themselves are going to be making, there's another one that's going to be producing, the parietal cells will produce hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid is going to take the enzyme pepsinogen, and it's going to activate it once it's released by the chief cells into pepsin. The pepsin is going to break down the protein. We also have some endocrine cells that produce a hormone called gastrin that plays a role in digestion. So here are these gastric pits right here. Again, this is a drawing you would be doing if you were working on the pictures for this unit. But you see the parietal cells right here, you see the chief cells down here, and then you see some mucus cells as well. And these guys are going to be producing the pepsinogen and the hydrochloric acid that turns into the pepsin. The pepsin is what digests the protein. So the small intestine is really kind of the big player here, and it's going to be where you're going to get all the completion of the digestion and all the nutrient absorption. There are three layers: a duodenum, the jejunum in the ileum, and the duodenum is attached to the stomach, and that's where digestion occurs. Very much longer are the jejunum and the ileum, and the whole thing's probably about, I don't know, 6 meters long, 5 meters long, and it basically is just doing a lot of absorption here in these two sections right here. Duodenum's relatively short, pretty much finished digestion pretty quickly. So the small intestine is where we get bile from the liver, and we get digestive enzymes, and it's not hydrochloric acid, baking soda, bicarbonate, and that is going to first neutralize the chyme that we had to come in with, and then the bile is going to mix with any fats, and it's going to do its own thing with them, and the digestive enzymes are going to break down all that. So in order to increase the surface area of the small intestine, we first have these villi here, and you can see make it look kind of like a shag carpet. And by increasing the surface area, we increase the region where stuff can digestion and absorption can occur. And then even on there, the villi, we also have what are called microvilli, and the microvilli are on these absorptive cells, and these are the ones that are going to be absorbing the nutrients from your food into your small intestine, so they can then be taken into the blood or into the lymph and delivered through the rest of the body. So here are those absorptive cells right there, and then here's the lacteal. That's a lymphatic vessel, and that is going to be taking fats typically. And then right around there are capillaries, and they are going to be absorbing proteins, carbohydrates, and they're going to take them to the hepatic portal vein, which will take them to the liver. And what happens in the liver is they're going to be filtered out. So if you take a huge amount of sugar or something like that, the liver is going to filter out some of that. Or you eat an entire chicken, you're going to take a lot of protein in, the liver is going to begin the filtering process there, so that stuff doesn't overwhelm your system and take you out of homeostasis. The large intestine's primary job is absorption of water and elimination of the food that we don't really want, anything that's indigestible. And then it also is going to have some bacteria. It's got several parts to it. The ascending colon right here that connects to the small intestine, the transverse colon right here, the descending colon, the S-shaped colon, and then the rectum and anus where defecation is going to occur. Salivary glands, we have 3 of them. The parotid glands, the submandibular and sublingual. Here's sublingual right there, submandibular right there, and parotid glands are going to be right out there. And when we do our fetal pig, you'll see the parotid glands for sure, and then the other one's a little bit harder to see. And they're basically going to have an enzyme in them, and they're going to have chemicals that are going to allow the food to be tasted, so it can mix, obviously, stimulated by to stimulate the taste buds, and then we're going to make a bolus out of it. So when you chew a long time, you produce a lot of salivary enzyme or saliva, and the saliva helps to move the food through the system. So obviously your role of teeth is to chew, and you have 2 sets, your baby teeth and your permanent teeth. Most of you lost them between the ages of 6 and 12. Some of you guys have a full set of 32 teeth, but for many people the wisdom teeth have not come in. Their jaw is much smaller, and it can't really fit those teeth in, so they come in kind of funny, and a lot of times you get those taken out. So here we are again. We have the 4 different types: our incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. And you can see you don't have those third molars in the babies. And we do have all 4 sets, obviously, in the adult. Here's some parts of the tooth here, and obviously the tooth is not a bone. It's got a bunch of different stuff. It's got the crown, and the crown has a dent in the pulp and the cavity. Then we've got the neck, and then of course we've got the root here. You're going to have blood and nerves. This is a living part of the tissue right here. The crown right there, all that stuff, that enamel, that's not alive. Bacteria, they can kind of get into this space right in here, pull the gum away from there, and then get down into the bone and the tooth. When you have trouble like that, when you get bacteria in there, you got trouble. So that's why I try and clean your teeth. Our pancreas does a lot of digestion. It produces a ton of digestive enzymes for carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids are all in there. And again, like I said before, it produces baking soda that is going to be neutralizing the acid that's coming from the stomach, and also it's going to turn off pepsin, that hormone that we saw earlier, that enzyme that only works in the intestine or in the stomach at a very low pH. This alkaline fluid is going to raise the pH to neutral, and it's going to turn off that enzyme, and it's in turn going to turn on all of these enzymes that we were secreting into the small intestine. The liver is going to be dumping, like I said earlier, the bile in to digest the fats, and then it's also going to be filtering the fluid that's coming out, the nutrients that are coming out of the small intestine. So the bile is made of bile salts, bile pigment, and cholesterol. And if you take in a lot of fat, you can form a lot of what are called gallstones, and they can block the gallbladder, and they can cause a lot of pain. But their primary job is to emulsify fats. That's take a big fat droplet and turn it into lots and lots of tiny fat droplets, and that makes it more efficient to break down the fats. So here are our 5 processes for the digestive system. First we have to take it in, then we have to move it, then we break it down, then we absorb it, and then we poop out the rest. So peristalsis again, so wave-like contraction, goes from top to bottom. It's going to start as soon as you start swallowing, and it's going to stop when you defecate. And it's a kind of a continuous process. It can go faster or slower. If it goes really slow, then you're constipated. If it goes really fast, you have diarrhea. And then this is the segmentation we see in the stomach, where we're moving it back and forth. We're trying to shake it up, and we're trying to do a little bit better mixing. That's a segmentation. All right, so most of the digestion, I said, of carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, going to be in the small intestine, and there are different enzymes to carry out each job. And they're pretty obvious, like lipids are broken down by lipase, and carbohydrates are broken down by enzymes like amylase and maltase. They're typically named after the molecule they work on. And we have reflexes from the parasympathetic system, primarily the vagus nerve, that is going to be controlling how digestion is going to occur. Information that we're going to use to help control that is, the organ stretches. So as we eat more food or drink more water, that's going to send a signal. The pH of the contents, as it becomes more acidic, that would change it. And then as we start to break things down, then those things are going to generate their own signals. And so we can, as a result of that, have some glands like the pancreas secrete stuff, or we can cause or change the amount of smooth muscle activity that we have. So here's swallowing right here, and that's when the bolus, the fluid, the saliva mixed with the food, is pushed down by the throat. When you go like that right there, you're going to cause the tongue to push up against the palate. That's going to push the food to the back, and then that's going to initiate the peristaltic function. So in the stomach, basically what we have is the food, when it enters there, releases that hormone we call gastrin, and then gastrin signals the chief cells to reduce the pepsin, and the parietal cells then release the hydrochloric acid, and that takes the pepsinogen that was here and turns it into pepsin, and that's what binds to the proteins and breaks them down. So typically your stomach is going to empty in about 4 to 6 hours after eating, and so some stuff can get in there much faster, and some stuff may take a while. Obviously, the more complex the molecule is, like a steak, would take more time to break down than sugar, like from a pixie stick or a Sour Patch Kid. So here are the enzymes that are going to be breaking it down. They're typically in the small intestine. Remember, we had some coming from the pancreas. We also have some in the small intestine. And then here are the ACEs, like the lipase and nuclease that we mentioned earlier. And so here is how we get that pancreatic juice released. So if you look here, when this stuff enters the small intestine, that's going to cause a hormone called secretin and CCK to then signal go to the bloodstream, and then they are going to go to the pancreas, and then they're first going to be releasing the bicarbonate, basically baking soda, and then they're going to release their enzymes. And then the next thing is that the secretin will go to the liver, and it'll cause it to release bile. And These again will be signaled, the release is going to be signaled by the vagus nerve going to these muscles that surround the bladder and here to contract and push that stuff out. And finally, we will have some water absorbed in the small intestine, and most of the stuff that's going to be absorbed is going to go through those microvilli and villi. Lipids will go through by diffusion. Almost everything else is going to take a little bit of energy to absorb. And then we'll have the bacteria in the large intestine digest whatever's left. They live on whatever comes out of there, and depending on the kinds of food you eat, that's going to help determine the types of bacteria that you have. They make some stuff that's good for us, some vitamin K and some B vitamins. They also release some gases, which gives us our flatulence. We absorb all these things to concentrate the remaining fluid, or concentrate the remaining stuff that's there, and give us a solid or semi-solid waste. Here are your outline notes for this unit. You can go through and review this and find all the answers. Thank you.